Hi friend, today we are going to learn a beautiful poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. As we know that it is written by Robert Frost, and Robert Frost is one of the most celebrated American poets, and most of his poetry related with rural life, with nature. So present poem also deals with such a rural setting, and that's why I am going to make this video in my farm, and I sat under the orange tree. Okay, so see, before going to the poem, uh, we will deal with the introduction of Robert Frost. So Robert Lee Frost was born on 1874 and he died in 1963. Was an American poet. He is highly regarded for his realistic depiction or description of rural life. So, when I was studying my post graduation, at that time we had this writer in American literature. So, his poetry is very beautiful. This one is also the masterpiece, Stopping by Woods on Snow Evening. Then, one of the most famous poem is Mending Wall, then Burgess, etc. So his all poetry deals with rural life. Okay. So and his command of American colloquial speech. In between the poem, he describe the American colloquial speech, means he specially use typical American language. He is one of the most popular and critically respected American poets of 20th century. Most popular and critically respected American poets. What is the meaning? It means that most of the poets, most of the critics have done criticism on his poetry. And that's why he is also one of the respected one also in criticism in 20th century. He received 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. See, he is the only poet, he is the only American poet who got 4 time Pulitzer's awards for his poetry, and naturally, that's why he is one of the most eminent poets in American poetry. In this poem, the poet describes a little incident happening in a snowy evening. See, snow evening, perhaps the period is of winter, and a small incident that he describes. As a traveler, the poet is fascinated by beautiful scenes in the woods. Woods, actually, forest, but we may take as a farm. What happened when he was traveling, typically in snowy evening? So he is attracted by a beautiful scenes in the wood, and he stops to enjoy, but his mind urges him to go on. You know that every person has two mind. One mind says that yes, go on doing it. One mind says no, this is not good. So similarly here, a dilemmatic condition of mind has been beautifully described by Robert Frost. When we will go through the poem, I will describe in detail the meaning his mind urges him to go on. What happened? Most of the time in life, also, when we have responsibilities, many work to do, many plan to do, but such an incident comes in life that for some time we are attracted by that incident and we think that this is good than our responsibility, because everybody bends down by responsibility and burden of life, right? So here the poet beautifully manages the same. See the poem. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His horse, his house is in the village, though he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. What happened here? Poet says, whose woods these are, I think I know. Means here the poet gives us the clue that poet asked a question to himself and he himself answered the questions and he says that whose woods he think that I know. I think I know the owner of the house. Owner of this farm. His house is in the village. Though, Miss perhaps the poet is well aware about whose farm it is, and he knows that his house is there in the village. Though he will not see me stopping here. If I stop for some time and enjoy this beautiful evening scenery, or he will have something to eat there, he will not see me because I am here in the farm and he might be there in his house in the village to watch his woods fill up with snow. And poet is attracted towards this beautiful scenery. Poet is fascinated by this snowfall, and that's why he says that I will not be seen by that owner of the house, and that's why let me enjoy all those things. My little horse must think it queer, strange. Of course, the poet was riding on the horse, but when the poet stops there in that uh, farm, the horse think that it is not a familiar thing. This is not our farm. To stop without farmhouse near. Here there is no farmhouse. The horse thinks. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. See, Miss perhaps the farm or the farm of the poet might be there between the woods and a frozen lake. The darkest evening of the year, and this is one of the darkest evening of the year. Perhaps the poet uh, is describing this as a winter season. Okay, then in next stanza, he gives his harness bell a shake. He means here horse. He gives his harness bell a shake. That horse shook its neck to ask if there is some mistake. Why my master has stopped here? It is a certain mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and drowsy flake. Means there is no other sound. Only other sound sweep of easy wind and drowny flake. A drowny flake meaning is given soft feather like snowflakes falling. Means actually no other sound was there, only the sound of that bell which has been given stuck by the horse. Okay, here the role of a horse is also important because horse thought that this is not my farm, this is not our farm, why my master has stopped here? Perhaps it is a mistake done by my master. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. See, these are the very famous lines in whole literature, English literature, we may say, and those who are the lovers of English literature, they are familiar with this stanza. Why? Because when Pandit Nehru died on his table, these four lines were written, it means that Pandit Nehru also likes to read the literature of Robert Frost, and that's why these lines become very famous in literature. Now, see, we need to take out the meaning also. Woods are lovely, dark, and deep. Here, woods means we may either take farm or forest. Certainly, farm and forest are lovely, dark and deep. Okay, dark and deep, very greenery is there. But I have promises to keep. Being human being, we need to. This is a responsibility to keep it safe, right? Miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Here, this line is repeated, not for pleasingly musical effect. Remember, there is a deep meaning. I try to tell you the meaning. So, first line, and miles to go before I sleep. It means, you know, first sleep is taken for actual sleep when we literally go to sleep at the end of the days, means at night, when we complete our day's responsibility, day's work, and when we go to sleep, that is a first sleep. And miles to go before I sleep, and this second sleep is taken for death. It means uh, some workers are laughing, they are working in the farm. Okay, anyway, so when we die, before our death, we need to fulfill certain responsibilities and duties. After the completion that the duties and responsibilities, then we should die or we must die. This is the meaning of this line. Okay. Uh, Exercises and again some deep meaning I will deal with in next video. So thank you.